This is Chapter 3, Motivation. NFL quarterback and Super Bowl MVP Steve Young once said, "The principle is competing against yourself. It is all about self-improvement, about being better than you were the day before." Michael Jordan, arguably one of the most prolific basketball athletes, once said, "Obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, don't turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb it, go through it, or work around it." Motivation can be defined as the direction and the intensity of one's efforts. Motivation can be affected by multiple factors, including competitive stress, which we will examine in Chapter 4, and intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, which we will examine in Chapter 6. So, what exactly do direction and intensity of effort mean? The direction of effort refers to whether an individual seeks out, approaches, or is attracted to certain situations. For example, a student who registers for classes or seeks out a professor for help if they are struggling in a class. Intensity of the effort refers to how much effort a person puts forth in a particular situation. For example, a student may attend a course but not put in too much effort. Or they may not spend time reading materials or doing assignments before class so that they're prepared for discussions and other activities, and therefore they're not very motivated. For the purposes of this course, we will look at motivation as the combination of the direction and intensity of effort. Direction and intensity of effort are closely related. For example, students who have higher effort are more likely to attend courses and to participate. In the same vein, students who are less likely to attend courses or participate have lower effort in attendance. Each of us develops a personal view of how motivation works, and we typically want to apply that to other people. Once we learn what motivates us, we commonly assume that it will motivate other people as well. We may also observe how other people are motivated if we find a mentor. This is common if we are trying to initiate change. We may attempt to model our behaviors off of other people. Although each of us views motivation a little bit differently, there are three primary approaches to motivation. These perspectives on motivation parallel the approaches to personality that are discussed in Chapter 2. The first is a participant or trait-centered view. This view contends that motivated behavior is primarily a function of individual characteristics. This means that high or low levels of motivation is reflected in individual characteristics. The personality, needs, and goals of the individual are primary determinants of the motivated behavior. According to this theory, if an individual does not have it, there is nothing anyone can do to make it happen. This ignores environmental influences on motivation and is somewhat unrealistic. It is one reason sport and exercise psychologists have not endorsed the trait-centered view for guiding professional practice. A second view is the situation-centered view. This view is in direct contrast to the trait-centered view. The situation-centered view argues that motivation level is determined primarily by the situation. Personal attributes are insufficient predictors of motivation. Motivation is determined by the situation, and according to this theory, those with the ability to be motivated will not exhibit those attributes unless the situation or environment fosters it. For many of us, we have experienced times in which we have lost motivation, even though we were in a positive environment. Or you may have continued to persevere in a negative environment. In these cases, the situation was not the primary factor influencing your motivational level. For these reasons, sport and exercise psychologists do not recommend this situation-centered view on motivation as the most effective for guiding the practice. The last view is the interactional view. This view is the most widely endorsed by sport and exercise psychologists. This is also known as the participant by situation or interactional view. This view suggests that motivation results neither solely from participation factors nor from situational factors either. Rather, motivation comes from the interaction of personal and situational factors and how the two interact. With this, personal and situational factors can also destroy motivation. According to this theory, motivation is more likely if people possess characteristics that drive them to want to achieve, and if the environment supports it. This is the interactional view model. The participant by situation interaction is influenced by the personal factors, such as personality needs, interests, and goals. The participant by situation interaction is also influenced by the situational factors, such as leadership coach style, facility attractiveness, and team win-loss record. The participant by situation interaction results in the participant's resulting motivation. The interactional model of motivation has 5 guidelines. Guideline 1 is to consider both situations and traits in motivating people. When attempting to increase motivation, we must consider both situational and personal factors. Low participation motivation usually results from a combination of personal and situational factors. To enhance motivation, you must analyze and respond not only to the individual's personality, but also to the interaction of the personal and situational characteristics. Because motivations may change over time, you should continue to monitor people's motives for participation even months after they've begun. Guideline 2, we need to understand people's motives for involvement. There are a lot of reasons as to why people are involved in activities. Figuring out motives can help to influence the team or individual's participation. Influence exercise participation and adherence to injury rehabilitation protocols. This theory contends that all people are motivated to satisfy 3 general needs: the need to feel competent, autonomous, and social connectedness, or belonging. How these motives are fulfilled leads to a continuum of motivation ranging from amotivation or no motivation to extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation. As we consider motivation, please remember these points. Individuals participate for a multitude of reasons. Individuals have competing motives sometimes. Individuals have shared and unique motives for participation, and there are changing motives. People have such a diverse range of motives for participation. The simplest way to understand a person's motive for participation, we can do this by asking them. We don't text them, we actually have a conversation with people. That seems like a novel thing these days. We can also talk to others. This is a great way to get perspective and to find out what is going on with people and how they are responding. And lastly, we can observe. We also need to consider how people view success and failure. We will spend a little bit more time on this later. The interactional model of motivation has 5 guidelines. These are guidelines 3 through 5. Guideline 3, we change the environment to enhance motivation. To enhance motivation, structure environments to meet the needs of all participants. This helps to foster motivation levels. Guideline 4, influence motivation. As a leader, you have the ability to influence individuals' motivational levels. Most people model behavior they see, especially if they respect or admire an individual. We can't all have 100% good days, but it's important to be positive, upbeat, and professional at all times, especially if you're having a bad day. If you are having a bad day, it is recommended that you communicate to others so that they don't misinterpret your intentions and take the difference in your personality or behavior personally and let it affect their personal motivation. And finally, Guideline 5, use behavior modification techniques to change undesirable motives and strengthen weak motivation. So where does motivation come from? Motivation is a key variable in both learning and performance in sport and exercise contexts. People sometimes forget that motivation is not the only variable influencing bad behavior. There are individual differences in motivation. It is important to understand why some people seem so highly motivated to achieve their goal and why others seem to just go along for the ride. Psychologists Edward Deci and Michael Ryan developed a general theory of motivation called the self-determination theory. This theory suggests that all people are motivated to satisfy three general needs: the need to feel competent, autonomous, and social connectedness or belonging. This is the continuum of self-determination. This continuum starts with low motivation, and it continues up to high motivation. Those with low motivation are referred to as amotivated or no motivation. This is the lack of motivation. Extrinsic motivation is influenced by external factors, and intrinsic motivation is influenced by internal factors. This also fits on a continuum, with non-self-determined behaviors ranging up to self-determined behaviors. So these columns and rows fit together. Those that have low motivation are amotivated, which means they lack motivation, and typically feel that they are not in charge of their behavior. Conversely, those who have high motivation are motivated by intrinsic motivation and internal factors. These people feel like they can self-determine their future and behaviors. Motives and motivation. Motive is important in influencing individual and team performance. Common motives include appearance, fitness, weight loss, self-challenge, and enjoyment, among other things. Motives change across age groups. Older adults are less ego-oriented than our younger adults. There is a gender difference in motives, and also there is a cultural effect of motives as well. Motives are affected by psychological mediators, such as competency, autonomy, and relatedness. These are affected by motivation, including amotivation, intrinsic, and extrinsic factors. These affect the outcomes, including the activity, adherence, and effect among other outcome measures. Goal orientation affects motivation. Goals can help us to understand why, if, or what people are motivated to achieve. The achievement motivation deals with the pursuit of excellence as well as the psychological journey of getting there. If we understand why motivation differences occur in people, we can intervene positively. This refers to one's effort to achieve excellence, overcome obstacles, to be better than others, and to take pride. This includes a person's persistence in the face of failure and in pride in accomplishments. This is basically a self-comparison, and it also forgoes the opinions of others. Competitiveness is defined as a disposition to strive for satisfaction when making comparisons with some standard of excellence in the presence of a value of others. Competitiveness reflects a high level of achievement motivation. Competitiveness is also a social evaluation or a comparison in which individuals are compared against some standard of excellence. This comparison often occurs in the presence of others and is often for the purpose of achieving over others. 4 theories of achievement motivation have evolved, including the need achievement theory, attribution theory, achievement goal theory, and competence motivation theory. The need achievement theory is an interactional view that considers both personal and situational factors as important predictors of behavior. Different factors interact in this theory, including personality factors, situational factors, resultant tendencies, emotional reactions, and achievement behaviors. Personality factors and situational factors are examined together. The personality factors suggest that each of us has a basic underlying achievement motive to either achieve success and to avoid failure. Situational factors include the probability of success and the incentive value of success. These factors conclude in the resultant tendencies or behavioral tendency. This considers an individual's achievement motive levels in relation to situational factors. We can either move towards success or towards failure. These relate to emotional reactions, specifically how much pride and shame someone experiences. And lastly, there is a relation to achievement behaviors. This component indicates how the other four components act together to affect behavior. All of this refers to an individual's desire for significant accomplishments, mastery of skills, control, and high standards. The attribution theory focuses on how people explain their successes and failures. This theory suggests the possibility of success or failure can be classified into a few categories. These categories are stability, locus of causality, and locus of control. Stability is a factor to which one attributes either success or failure. This is fairly permanent and stable, such as having talent or good ability. If it is unstable, someone may have relied on good luck. The locus of causality is a factor that is either internal and requires a lot of effort on the individual, or is external and makes competition easy. The locus of control either is or is not under an individual's control. If it is in your control, you plan your competition, and if it is out of your control, then it was because the opponent lacked conditioning or some other factor outside of you. Achievement goals are a way to understand differences in achievement. Three factors interact to determine a person's motivation: achievement goals, perceived ability, and achievement behavior. Orientations are helpful to understanding this theory. It is very helpful to know orientation for motivational purposes, such as outcome goal orientation, competitive goal orientation, and task or mastery goal orientation. Task orientation, more often than not, is an outcome orientation, leading to strong work ethic, persistence in the face of failure, and optimal performance. The competency motivation theory. People are motivated to feel worthy or competent. This also states that behavior is directed, selective, and persistent based on an intrinsic need to deal effectively with the environment. A theory of achieving motivation is based on a person's feelings of personal competence. According to the theory competence motivation, we see an increase when a person successfully masters a task. This encourages the person to master more tasks. In 1978, Dr. Harder suggested the competency motivation theory. The theory has been used to explain differences in sport performance. The theory is based on the assumption that humans have an innate motivation to be competent and that feelings of competence are the primary determinant of motivation. Competence is the ability to do something successfully or efficiently. Success performances can occur. Following successful performance, participants have an increase in self-efficacy, positive affect, and feelings of competency. This results in high competence motivation, which then leads back to an increase in motivation to master more skills. If, on the other hand, motivation results in unsuccessful performances, we will see more negative effects. This leads to low competency motivation. We then see fewer mastery attempts, and eventually we will see dropout. Perception of competencies is linked to one's affective state. Positive feelings or positive affect follow success in mastery attempts, whereas negative feelings or negative affect follow the lack of success. A final theory that has been used to explain differences in achievement behavior, especially in children, is the competence motivation theory. This theory suggests that people are motivated to feel worthy or competent, and that such feelings are the primary determinants of motivation. This theory also suggests that the athlete's perception of control, feelings of control over whether they can learn or perform skills, work along with self-worth and competence evaluations to influence their motivation. Feedback and reinforcement, along with motivational orientations, combine to affect self-esteem, perceived competence, and perceived control. This results in an effect such as enjoyment, anxiety, pride, happiness, and shame, which then results in motivation. So what do these theories tell us? We know certain things about high achievers. As far as motivational orientation, these individuals have high motivation for success, low failure motivation, and focus on pride of success. They share common attributes. High achievers assign success to stable and controllable factors. We also know that high achievers are likely to adopt goals. They usually adopt task goals. High achievers perceive competence and control. These individuals have a high perceived competence. They also feel achievement is within them and they are in control. In addition, we know these things: high achievers and task choice. They seek out challenges and able competitors and/or tasks. There is also an effect on performance. These individuals perform well in evaluative conditions or under pressure. We reinforce the need to achieve by creating challenging goals, teaching skills that can lead to improvement and success, and also by giving positive and constructive feedback. This allows for risk-taking behaviors and learning from outcomes. This creates situations in which the athlete feels successful, and we ensure that the person feels a sense of competence when it's all over. These are some of the issues with motivation. Unfortunately, nobody said you can use all of these motivation techniques in the same way for everyone. They are dependent upon personality, and motivation strategies have some issues. For example, using exercise as punishment, the pregame pep talk, the cut 'em down to build 'em up model. The military is famous for using this model. Treating team players differently. If they don't complain, they're happy. That no news is good news approach. What do athletes know anyway? As a coach, I may be superior. There's a problem in this thinking. The post-game rampage. Being upset because your team lost. The Napoleon complex or domination, especially of weaker members. And fear. This would be the quintessential bad coach philosophy. There is a downside to motivation. We need to make sure that we are not imposing motivational strategies on individuals who are not responding to them or not responding favorably. Better strategies for motivating individuals. We need to communicate effectively. We need to teach them what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, but we need to be careful when we're telling them that they're doing it wrong. Praise and encouragement can be used as rewards. We want to concentrate on strengths instead of weaknesses. We need to appear organized and in control. We need to take occasional time for fun and humor. We can't be serious all the time. We need to have quality instruction. Develop a mutual respect. I would highly encourage you to see the book. There are many more examples than what I have listed here.